Welcome, Team Joanna, to another installment of our Q&As, where Joanna answers the questions that you guys ask. I am Wendy Shepard. In case you are not familiar with me, I'm one of the admins on Joanna's Joanna the Healer private Facebook page. So welcome, Joanna.
Thank you, Wendy. Everybody welcome. Now, what Wendy just said, she's one of the admins. No, she's my go-to girl. So let's just make sure that we know how important she is. And even though she does not like to say that about herself, I just let that out.
Thank you.
Hello, everybody. And as we start this, I guess you could call it a podcast, I was made aware or reminded how important it is for me to be aware and clear on what my intention is with this Q&A. So my intention, for those of you who are listening, is to help you raise awareness. And what I would like to ask of you is ask yourself, what is your intention as you listen to this? Because oftentimes, if you are not aware of your intention, you may receive information, but because you don't know where to fit it in, you might dismiss it. Okay?
Awesome.
So I'm ready whenever you are.
Okay. So we actually get a lot of questions that fall into what I've kind of summed it up. How does one find their life path?
So the first thing that is important for each individual to know is that everyone is on their own path and on their own journey. And oftentimes we try to look for our path by focusing on what other people are doing. And I just looked at my phone and it says 111. That's a big, loud message. So the takeaway I get from that is to know your path is to know you. And to know you is to look within yourself. And to look within yourself takes courage. So to know your path is to be courageous. I felt that one. Ooh.
I like that. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's very heart-centered. Wow. I'm also being asked to say that as I speak these words, because I'm channeling right now, these words are supported, almost like they're intermingled with a frequency, which is something that cannot be heard and cannot be seen, but it can certainly be felt by certain individuals. So if you are listening to this and feeling things inside your body, chances are this energy, which is like electricity, is triggering something inside of you. I don't know if trigger is the right word, but if you can feel sensations in your body as you listen to whatever comes through, you are receiving this information on a cellular level, on an energetic level as well. So you essentially are getting a healing. Because this energy that I'm channeling is very high frequency. And I was actually saying to Wendy a moment ago that this morning in particular has been so powerful in a most beautiful way, but because it's such high frequency, I know that it's just a matter of time before I need to go outside and ground this because it's so big. It's like somebody just handed me a truckload full of gold coins. And I'm like, oh my God, what do I do with all of this?
That's awesome.
So the message in that is that something like this, even though it's profoundly beautiful, takes some getting used to. Which is interesting, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I just took a drink of water because water is very grounding as well. Since I can't put my feet in the ground at this very moment.
And also conductor to energy. So by drinking lots of water, you are helping this energy go through your energy body. So for those of you who can see it, I'm being encouraged to say this, you may see this energy as a blue light or a blue pattern. Okay? I actually have never said that before. That's interesting. Yeah. I seem to be working right now with blue frequency. I have to actually look into what that means more. But in my little understanding of what I know up to this point is because I work with beings who are, well, they're blue. They're blue. They're blue. There's no way around it. And their specialty is energy healing or healing with frequency. It makes sense to me why it would be blue, but they did say to me that it is extraordinarily powerful, particularly when it comes to the intellect and the mind. Now, when I say that, I'm going, of course, that makes perfect sense, because healing is really healing the mind, because the mind creates everything. We create with our mind, knowingly or unknowingly. At first, it's unknowingly. So if you can imagine this energy as blue light, however it comes to you, you'll help this energy nestle itself in your body. I love how this is flowing. Oh, God, I love this. By the way, this is what I've been doing lately, and I feel like I need to say it. Whenever I am in the flow, there is no other feeling in the world that comes close to this other than loving my son and my partner and my parents and all that kind of stuff. But
it's like bliss, eh?
It is like, if I put any words on it, because I put words on it, it will limit it.
Right.
But the best way that I can say it is, it feels freaking glorious. Yes. That's when you know when you're on your path.
Right. So this is like sort of as a follow-up to that original question I had written, that when one is truly walking their life path, like, to me, it's that everything is in alignment. And so for me, that feels like bliss. And so that's how I describe it. And so the follow-up question is this, that people have been asking. So using my words, that it feels like bliss, and I've got goosebumps like crazy right now. So if everything I do in my life is to help me feel that bliss, right? Because it's such an amazing feeling, as you know. Am I being selfish?
I think I just lost you.
Oh, okay. So I guess we had a blip. So for me, it feels like bliss, right? And so if everything I do in my life is to help me feel that bliss, because it feels so awesome, it feels so amazing to be in alignment, am I being selfish?
Okay, let's look at it from a different perspective. What would be the opposite of that?
The opposite of what?
You focusing on yourself.
Focusing on everybody else.
How is that not selfish? In other words, it's okay for people to expect things from you and you focusing on them. That is not selfish from them?
No.
So it is okay for you to focus on other people. And from their perspective, when you're focusing on them, are they not being selfish? Do you understand what I'm trying to say?
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So put yourself in the opposite side, and you are a person looking at Wendy, and you want Wendy to focus on you. Are you not being selfish?
Correct. Yes, I am.
So now that you see it from this other perspective, do you still feel the same way?
Well, so it wasn't my question. I just put it in terms of myself. So for me,
as an example.
Yeah. I mean, I see that. So for me, it's like, so I think people are drawn to you, Joanna, because like you emit this light and this just a beautiful, feeling. And so when I'm like completely in alignment and feeling that bliss, I'm emitting that energy into the space. And so it can't be selfish because like, if I'm focusing on me and that, and putting that out into the world, you and others are naturally absorbing it, right?
Beautifully said. Let's look at it from a different perspective. It's a very similar perspective, but just a twist on words. When you focus on feeling good, who benefits other than you?
Everybody.
Thank you. Is that selfish?
It's not.
Yes. A few years ago, when I was in a meditation, I had a being come to me, and this is what this being said to me. Don't remember exact the words, but it was something like this. To love yourself is not an act of selfishness. To love yourself is an act of selflessness towards yourself. Because we generally are taught to be selfless to others, but are we ever taught to be selfless to ourselves? When I heard that, I went, yep, that's pretty big.
It's pretty big.
And it makes so much sense. And the whole point is, these beings that I'm working with, I can't get enough. It's like I'm in a frickin' candy store, because they say things that are so profound in such simple way. And it's just, again, we human tends to overcomplicate things.
Yep.
So let's keep going with this selfishness idea. What does being selfish really mean? For example, it could mean different things to different people. But if I was to ask you, for example, what does selfish mean to you?
Selfish is caring only about oneself and not about others. Selfish is, well, kind of as you said earlier, right? Like taking and not giving. Selfishness is just constantly me focused with like I've got a picture of like just a wall around me, like nothing, it's just all me.
Right.
And things can get in, the things that I want to get in can get in, but nothing goes out, like, because I can't see beyond the walls.
Right. So I'm looking at the word selfish, and it says a person, action, or motive lacking consideration for other people, concerned chiefly with one's own personal profit or pleasure. So the way I look at the idea of selfishness is a place where, a place of, word please, scarcity. Now, when my brain thinks about it, I go, okay, that actually sounds pretty right. Because when we are being selfish, it is generally primarily because we're coming from a space of lack.
So let's talk more about that.
Yeah. Is there a follow-up question, or should I just
let's talk about that.
Unroll it.
Lack. Yeah, let's just unroll that. Yeah.
So before we go to the lack, let's just keep going with the selflessness versus selfishness. And the question to each and every person is this: can you accept that there is a way of being selfless to yourself and also being selfless to others? Can we agree on the fact that that does exist? In other words, it's not impossible. It clearly is possible, because it's a matter of making a choice, right? But we're not taught to look at things that way, because oftentimes we're very black and white, when the truth is everything is in a gray. Most things are in a gray.
Right.
So if someone is struggling with an idea that says, oh my God, am I being selfish? All you have to do and ask yourself, where is this idea coming from? And what is behind my motive? What is behind my intention? Is my intention to self-nurture, or is my intention to take it all to myself regardless of everybody else? Those are two different things.
It's also very ego driven. Like when
Absolutely.
when that question comes up, it's very ego. So you
yes,
have
it's a
to
judgment.
you have to like put that to the side and feel, what is it like? It's in your body. Does it feel off? Like when you're fighting with somebody and that feeling inside that like there's all this angst, or does it feel in alignment? Does it feel good?
I'm going to give you an example, and it happened this morning. So my son called in, and when my son comes in, I answer the phone.
Same
And
here.
but I was right in going into a deep meditation. So my analytical mind is somewhere out. It's not quite connecting. So I sound very different on the phone. I sound short and disinterested because I'm not in a completely different space. So he wanted to talk. All I said was, "Are you okay?" Yes, it's just me and my dad. I said, "Okay, as long as you're okay, I'll call you later." I put down the phone. It's like, oh, shit. Couldn't let it go because I felt bad. So I said, okay, I'm going to have to deal with it. Now, whether it was founded or unfounded, I didn't have time to go into it. I just said, I need to deal with it right now. So I called and I said, hey, listen, I didn't mean to sound short. He's like, Mom, you don't have to explain. I said, yes, I do, because I need to. If I don't, I will not be able to do what I have to do with my work.
Right.
And I said, you caught me right in the middle of being in my meditation, and my brain is completely not in my logical place. Like I'm in a very different space. So I said, I just want you to know that this is where I'm at. It has nothing to do with me not wanting to speak with you. And at the end of the day, it was fine. And we actually ended up talking for 10 minutes. But at that moment, I felt kind of selfish. And I didn't want there to be any misunderstanding on his part, because he struggles with self-identity like every young man or woman, right? And I just wanted to make sure that he knows that I come from the right space. So I had my moment, whether it was selfish or maybe some other word, I don't know, but I didn't feel good, because I felt, what if did I just put my work in front of my son? And clearly it's not the case. It's not black and white.
Right.
So I talked to him, and everything is fine. And then I went doing what I was supposed to do. So whenever there's a moment like that, and we question or we have this, the best way to deal with it, if we can, is to deal with it head on. Right?
And I'll bet you felt good when you hung up the phone.
Oh my God. It was like, yeah, literally, weight has been lifted off of me, and I didn't know I had the weight.
Right. Exactly.
So it helped him, and it helped me, and it helped the whole process. Somehow they urged me to give this example. So it's going to help somebody. Somebody's going to hear this example, something is going to click. And oftentimes, if you think about it, I feel like we're veering a little bit in a slight different direction, but I'm just going to continue. Oftentimes, the problem is in what is unsaid or what is not understood.
100%. Yeah.
So, and it's not even if a person perceives you as selfish, because if you're true to yourself and true to your heart, and someone perceives that as selfishness, that has nothing to do with you. It has everything to do with them. Right?
Absolutely.
But if we take it on, then we can get a little bit lost. So I think what they're trying to say is, in a very kind of interesting way, it's important to deal with problems head on. I don't know, that's coming up for somebody. There's somebody that's going to listen to this, and it's like, oh shit.
So I'll give you an example. So, previously I would avoid, or there's something going on, and like say between me and my wife, and, I could go on for days and not speak to her. Right. That was a very common thing. And, earlier this year, I made a decision to, change things and change how I'm, approaching things, and meditating and all that kind of stuff. And first time something came up, I did that. I hit it head on, and she was just like, "What the hell is this? What are you doing?" I'm like, wait, you mean you're coming to say you're sorry? Like right now? Like
you're messing with my flow.
She was just like, I don't know what's going on here. I don't know who you are.
Yeah.
But it feels so much better, right?
Because you're not carrying that extra energy. Because when you're not, my mom used to do this all the time. she would, and I'm not saying that's what you did, but it brings up the idea of not talking. And with my mom, you know, that was her way of making me pay for something, whatever it was, and very passive aggressive. I'm not saying it's you.
No, it was for sure.
Yeah, and the message in her not communicating was very loud and clear, which is, I'm going to punish you for it.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
And as long as we stay in this, I'm going to punish you for it, you're screwed.
Yeah.
Because you're the one that's carrying this, like you said, this energy. Imagine a boulder tied to your ankle right now. Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. Do your life with this huge boulder tied to you.
Exactly.
It's going to slow you down.
Yeah.
So that's wonderful that you've recognized this and you effectively changed your pattern, because you've introduced a different way of dealing with something. And I suspect that's going to create a whole chain of events.
Absolutely.
Stemming from that. And what you've done is you've accepted certain responsibility you had in that moment. And you were probably very sure in yourself that whatever it is that you've always done, it just doesn't work for you anymore.
Correct.
You're beyond that. You've recognized that. And you just said, ego, you know what? You've done this for me for many years, but you know what? I've outgrown you already.
Yep.
And you stepped up.
Yep.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
And I've said this, I keep saying it in most of my longer videos. We live in a time, and I know you guys have heard this a million times, but 1,000,001, worth repeating. We live in times where, energetically speaking, there is no better time to implement new strategies, to implement new ways of doing things, to implement new thoughts, because all of that is going to help you create your new solid ground or foundation, and the energy is very, very supportive of that. At the same time, if we continue with our old story, our story is going to repeat and amplified. So if we don't like what we are experiencing, there's no better time than this to make the change. And the change has to always come with recognition or awareness and intention.
Yep.
Right?
You know, I just did that this morning too, because my life has been, you know, very difficult over the last, you know, week plus now. And I've been quite like bone weary, exhausted. And I know that it's also what's going on, you know, energetically right now as well.
Yeah.
But I decided this morning that I was going to rewrite that story. My story, you know, day after day, when I would see somebody, how you doing? I'm exhausted, was the first thing out of my mouth, right? And I decided today is not that day. And as long as I'm not like feeling resistance to it, like yesterday, I just had to give into it. But as long as I'm not feeling resistance to, that's not going to be my story today, then I'm going to change it. And it has actually been a really amazing day. A really amazing day.
As you're saying it, I see it as a visual, and the image I have is you hitting your head against the wall, and then something changed and you go through the wall. It's still that same wall, but something in you changed and you were able to go through it. Which means there is no longer a wall. Wall is something that separates, and something that stops you or prevents you from something.
Right.
So again, this idea of whole bunch of chain events happening. So this is, as we're talking about you, this is a message for everybody. When you make a small change in your direction, whatever you deem your direction to be, you know, hopefully a positive one, everything is connected. See it as a spider web. When you make a tiny change in one spot, it affects everything else because it's connected. And it's just a matter of time before you see that change of your awareness in your physical reality. Remember, thoughts manipulate matter. When they told me that last week, I went, wait a second, let me just get my brain around this. And thoughts manipulate matter. Matter is energy of lower frequency. We, when we think, manipulate energy all day long.
Yep.
So when we think about something a lot, we will often see it in our reality in a 3D existence. So thoughts manipulate matter. So when we say to ourselves, for example, oh my God, I'm tired. Oh my God, I'm tired. My son used to always say that. And I said, hey, I'm not going to say his name. You know, you're saying this because you got used to hearing it from your dad and it's just like a pattern. You don't even think about it. But I said, think about this. Every time you say this to yourself, you affirm something. And you're like in this vicious cycle. Or he would say, oh, my stomach hurts, because, you know, that's just what he learned to say. And he'll just begin to say it without thinking. And just because we say things without thinking doesn't mean these thoughts don't affect our lives.
Right.
They absolutely do. That's why it's so important to be aware of what we are thinking. What is in our autopilot? What needs change, right?
And what we put out into the universe. And this, so I'll share with you. So when I had my epiphany that I recreated last summer, again this summer, unintentionally speaking, I was talking to the woman who lives in our house in Pennsylvania, and she would always say to herself, you know, God, give me strength. Or it was like, you know, yeah, like, Lord, give me strength. And she just recognized in me telling her my story about recreating last summer again this summer, she was like, well, the universe is listening because they keep giving me things to test my strength. She's like, that's it. I am never saying that out loud. I'm never saying that again.
Because the universe is literal.
Yes. Yes.
The universe doesn't read between the lines. The universe goes on what goes out of your body in terms of frequency.
Right.
Frequency doesn't lie.
No.
The mind will tell you 1,000 stories.
Uh-huh.
Your vibration, that's your truth, which is why it's so important to be okay with feeling. It's in a feeling. It's in a feeling. When we are, for example, this is what's coming up. When we're asking for a lot of money, let's just use that basic example, or car, or a boyfriend, or whatever, you know, we're asking for something. And in our mind, we go, oh yes, I deserve it. I deserve better than this. But you're not getting it. Then that means the true part of you who believes in all there is does not believe that you can have whatever it is that you are vying for. And until you connect the dots, you're always going to be at odds with yourself. Mm-hmm. And the true part of you that deems whatever truth is to you, you know, let's say you had bad experiences growing up and your dad left, your idea might be that all men suck. You know, you don't say that to yourself every day, but you have, based on your experience, this is what you saw, and that's almost like a stamp. It imprints, right? Yep. And if we are not aware of that consciously, we can be doing all the thinking and all the, oh, I'm more worthy than this. Not much is going to happen, because vibrationally speaking, what we will receive is what is vibrationally true to us. And that is what needs healed, what needs to heal. It's the truth that we tell ourselves. And by the way, there is no such thing as one truth. I mean, yes, there is this one truth that everything is universe, yes, but everybody has their own truth. Everyone has their own truth, their own version of what truth is, right?
Yep.
That's why I always say, whenever somebody listens to me, I don't want you to believe me in what I say. That's my truth. Try it and see if it fits. Try wearing it for a while. See if you get results. And by no means am I saying what I say is the truth. No, I have no way of knowing that. But what I do know is that when I follow this truth, shit happens in the most amazing ways. So I'm going to share that truth with you. You get to be the one who says yay or no, or she's crazy, or implement or don't implement, or do or don't, whatever. That's all I'm doing, is I'm sharing my version of my truth based on my experiences. And hopefully by listening to me and seeing my work, you get a glimpse of, maybe there is something that she knows what she's talking about. And even when I say she, it's not even so much Joanna, it's what goes through me, although I do have to, okay, they're saying to me that it's important that I own my part of it. Okay, so here it goes. I have to own my part of it and accept that I am part of it, because I have a tendency to not own it. Does that make sense?
Yep.
And again, that's the little girl in me that says I'm not enough. And I'm very, very aware of that. But I'm at a place, I feel like I just said that to somebody. I'm at a place where I can see it and I can rise above it fairly quickly. And I don't try to reject that part of me. I don't get angry. All I'm doing, or what I'm being encouraged to do, is I accept that this part is still a part of me, because guess what? That part of me is want acceptance. So I accept that part of me, and by me accepting that part of me, I accept part of who I am. And the resistance to that begins to be less and less.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, I remember when I told you last week that we had literally recreated this experience that we're going through right now, and I told you I'm pretty mad at myself right now, and wrapped up in that was like, I'm also super powerful, but I was pretty pissed because, who wants to have 2 broken arms?
Yes.
2 years in a row, practically.
Not too many people.
No. I mean, it was a dog bite and a broken arm last year. But but what you said to me was, okay, you've got 1 hour. You have 1 hour to be mad at yourself. And I know why you said it, because my tendency is to want to push it away, right? Like, no, I can't be mad at myself, because like, that's not in a place of high vibration and all that kind of stuff. But your point was, no. And this is what you were just saying, is you got to feel it. You got to be okay with that. And so let yourself feel it, and then change your mind. And that's what you said to me. And then change your mind.
Did it work?
Oh, absolutely.
My team did that with me a couple of years ago. And I remember, because I remember when I was going into a parking lot to get into my car, and I was just pissed off about something. And I think I was feeling bad about being mad, and this is what I got. Be as mad as you want for the next 2 hours. After 2 hours, give yourself permission to feel something different. And there was something so simple, yet so profound about it, that I thought, that's actually quite brilliant, because what's happening is I am not pushing away how I feel, which is called avoidance.
Right.
And I'm allowing myself to feel that. I mean, let's face it, if you were not supposed to have that feeling, you would not have that feeling as part of your being.
Right.
However, what happens is we wallow in it, or we get attached to it, or worse yet, we identify ourselves with it. And when that begins to dominate, when that it begins to dominate, that's when we lose focus. So when they said, be mad for as long as you want, I think they said an hour, 2 hours, or 1 hour, but then give yourself permission, which means it was my choice.
Right.
They made sure that I knew that, hey, you can be as mad as you want for however long you want. Knock yourself out. It's your feeling. You have feelings to enjoy feelings. People go to horror movies and get scared, and they enjoy it. So have the feeling, but don't get hung up on it. Choose something different when you're done. It's almost like, when you like something and it's in front of you, eventually when you've had so much of something, you get full, and even the best thing in the world begins to be kind of blah, because you just had too much. Right. Incidentally, speaking of food, and again, I feel somebody will need to hear this. When you deny yourself of nutrition, your body's going to get you. When you deny yourself of food in a certain way, because for whatever reason, your body has a tendency to find what it needs anyway. It's just going to come and catch you some other way. So rather than denying certain foods, give yourself permission to have some, but also choose something else with it. Because when we resist something we really want, we constantly live in resistance. And by the way, you cannot sustain that for very long. Right?
Coming
There's a
from a former
message.
anorexic, that's true.
Yeah. I used to not have a great relationship with my body or food for that matter. And this has been a very much a healing journey for me. And I mean, for those of you who don't know, I was sexually abused when I was younger in school. And I remember when I went to a teacher and I asked for help, she said, you know what she said? Oh, boys will be boys. That was it. That was it. Now, when I thought about it years ago, I go, oh God, now I understand why I was so fucked up. But I used food in order to deal with my pain.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
And obviously, you know, who wants to feel a certain way bad all the time? So you find ways to do things. It's a good thing I didn't go into drugs or drinking. Some
Right.
people do. But, you know, food is worse because you can't live without food.
Exactly. Exactly.
So I'm talking to somebody who may have challenges with how they feel about themselves physically and food. Somebody's going to hear this.
And so to follow up on that, I think it was in one of Pam Grout's books, possibly E Squared, I was reading. And she talks about, like when she was growing up, their family blessed their food every night before they, you know, actually before every meal, they blessed their food. And it's her belief, and they never had any weight problems in her family, in the family that, you know, that did this. And her feeling was through the blessing of the food to, you know, your body's highest, you know, needs, that the food did what it did and what you needed,
yeah,
and didn't do what you didn't need.
right.
And that was a fascinating concept to me, especially with, you know, my issues through the
Because you
years.
associate food when you bless it with something good.
Right.
With something divine. So to give you the flip side of that, I used to feel really bad about the food that I wanted to eat. And this actually was just in the last year that I thought, wait a second. Every time I eat something and I keep telling myself, oh my God, that's bad food. What the hell am I doing?
Right.
I'm turning food into something that's bad for me.
Right.
And it just kind of clicked. No food is good or bad. Well, with some exceptions. Too much of anything can't be good. Right?
Yep.
That's my cat agreeing, by the way. Hello, Missy. She's vocal. I don't know how we got on this subject with food, but I think it, again, boils down to acceptance.
Well, and we're hitting on things that people are asking about, right? So we were talking about the law of attraction, just a little. You were talking about it a little while ago, and you know, some members are finding that they attract things into their lives that they don't want. So,
Correct.
you know, financial issues, or they sabotage their finances. We've had some specific questions about continually attracting narcissistic people,
right,
into their lives. And so let's just talk a little bit more of what we attract in our lives.
So we tend to attract that which feels familiar on some level. Whether it's conscious or subconscious, it's familiar. Some of us may not have the familiarity on a conscious level to actually know that that's what we're doing. But if, a simple example, somebody who is struggling with a relationship, or let's call it trust in a relationship, all they have to do is kind of go back, rewind the tape, and go to the very beginning and ask themselves, where did I learn not to trust in relationships? Right? Because it has to come from somewhere.
Right.
Right? And of course, nobody wants to go into a relationship saying, no, I'm not going to trust. I mean, some people actually do that. I'm never going to trust anybody. Okay, if that's what your idea, if you think that's going to help you, you're screwed. You're actually screwed big time, because the universe is going to say, well, I have no other option but to support you in that.
Right.
Right? So this is often where we dip into the subconscious conditioning. My specialty, and they've coined this phrase for me last year, I'm like a mind surgeon. I go in and go, pinpoint the things that are not working properly. They've worked before, they had their purpose, but it's now the purpose is outlived or it's used, and it's no longer supporting a person in their journey to expansion, right? And anytime we want to move from point A to point B, in order to be in point B, we have to leave point A, make some changes so that we arrive at point B. And often these changes have to happen on in the mind first.
Yeah.
Right? Because what the mind thinks, the body follows. So I'm not sure if I'm actually answering or kind of answering what you're asking, but what was there a question? Was there an original question?
People who are attracting the things
Right.
into their lives that they don't want.
Right. So if someone is continually attracting the same thing, the question might be, what am I not getting from this? Or what am I not seeing? Or what am I choosing not to see? Not about the other person, but about yourself, because you're the one drawing it to you. What part of you is drawing this experience to yourself? And that part of you, what is its belief system, let's say, about relationships? Okay. If your belief system is based on your experiences that you can't trust men or women, you will attract generally people who will give you very good reason not to trust them.
Because the universe wants to prove you're right.
The universe always supports what you believe, and it's not the conscious belief. That's the big thing. It's not the conscious belief. That's why feeling is so important, because the conscious is in the mind. It's in our conscious mind. The subconscious is connected to our feelings, right?
Right.
So the best way to understand what our subconscious conditioning is to trace it back with a feeling. Does that make sense?
Yep. Yep.
Like, for example, with this, let's say, person who's attracting, candidates that are always disappointing him or her. This person needs to look inside and go, okay, clearly, if I'm attracting the same thing over and over, by the way, that makes it a pattern.
Mm.
And pattern comes from a certain belief, right? What happens is when we action certain belief, it becomes a pattern, and then it becomes subconsciously driven, so we don't have to pay attention to it. It's just like it's automatic.
Right.
So in order for the person to now attract someone who is worthy of their trust, they have to shift what they believe about relationships.
Yeah.
And it sounds pretty simple. As we know, it's not that easy. And it's primarily not easy because now we have to observe our thoughts. And generally, we are on autopilot. So we don't even know what we think.
Right.
We just do. Right?
Mm-hmm.
How do I say this? Last week, or just within the last couple of weeks, the thought came to me, which was, how often do you stop and say, why do I think the way I think? A, and B, what does what I think give me? And what is it giving me? Is it something I want, or is it something I'd rather not have? Because if it's something you'd rather not have, you have to change your thinking. Mm-hmm. And your thinking comes from a belief. Your belief is attached to your experiences. So by tracing back through feelings and experiences, we can pretty quickly pinpoint where the false perceptions are, so to speak. Mm-hmm. False perception, I don't know if that's the right word, but yeah, it's where the cracks are, right? And we're in a space right now where these cracks can be seen. They're very visible. And they're usually things that are in your face, staring at you saying, deal with me, deal with me.
Right.
But like I said earlier, this energy is extraordinarily supportive for making these changes, right? Sometimes just the awareness of our pattern helps us shift frequency.
100%. Absolutely.
Okay? Because the awareness is what makes it happen. The awareness is like an open door. So think of a person thinking they're in a dark cellar and they're just kind of turning around. The awareness is that dark room having all of a sudden a door that opens, and the door leads somewhere else. It's a way out of self-imprisonment.
Right.
Right?
And I would say to those, you know, with like on the money side of things is, first of all, like what's the first message we get from, you know, our parents, right? Like we're a toddler, we pick up, you know, a quarter or whatever, and what do? We put it in our mouth, right? Oh, no, 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 that's dirty. That's dirty.
Right.
Or, you know, or, you know, a paper money and licking. No, 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 that's dirty. That's dirty, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like that's the first message we get about money is it's bad because it's dirty.
For many people.
Yeah. And so, but that can also sort of carry through your life. And so when you were talking about the whole scarcity mindset piece, you know, what I was thinking in terms of money is like that sitting down to pay your bills and going, there's not enough. There's not enough. That's scarcity, right?
Correct.
And we got to shift that.
Yeah. See, and this is where the logic goes, what are you talking about? But so here's the bigger truth. There is no lack of anything in the universe. Now that's hard to hear for some people, and it was hard for me to hear at some point. There is no lack in the universe.
Nope.
But as long as we believe there is lack, we will not be able to not see it. We will see lack everywhere.
Right.
And as I'm saying these words, I can, like, for some people, it's like, this is too big to fit in. Like, they don't know what to do with that. And I get that. I understand that.
Right.
I completely understand that. It, at a certain point, you hit a level of awareness where it just clicks and you go, holy shit. And everybody will experience that in their own time, on their own journey.
Yep.
Right. Generally, when you are feeling that thing I was talking about, when you're on your path, you have that awareness or some degree of it.
Yep.
Right. Because we come from a source where its highest frequency expression is love. Love is abundance. Love is everything.
So I do actually have a question on the love piece, but I think we've been going for quite a while now.
You know what? Just go with that one question if you don't mind.
Okay. So, so if it's understood that our purpose here on earth is to be light and love, you would agree with that, right?
Yes.
What is the best way to accomplish that?
Be yourself.
And so the follow-up question to that was, what does being love actually look like in human form? And then it looks like you, if you're living your truth.
Well, that could be it. Or I would say, more than what does it look like, what does it feel like?
Right.
What does it feel like? It's the feel, the word feel. Feel is heart space. This is what we're moving into. We're moving from head space to more heart space. Right? So to be yourself, to be the highest expression of yourself, which your highest expression of yourself is love, right? Anything that's less than that is your limitations of what you think is a limitation. But the moment you realize that you are not your limitation, that you are way, way more than that, you will no longer, or at least as much, identify yourself as a limitation or with the limitation. And when that happens, we begin to be much more open to new experiences. And when we are more open to new experiences, we are more in a flow. We are less in resistance. Right? So ultimately, to be yourself is to feel free, if you think about it. In however way free means to some people.
Right.
To me, ultimate freedom, it used to be obviously very different. Right now, to me, ultimate freedom is to feel safe being myself. What does it mean to be myself? It's a whole freaking journey. And what it is for me today might slightly change 2 months from now. And I'm okay with that. Because even though I may not be what I will be tomorrow, obviously, I feel profoundly profoundly different than I've ever felt in my entire life in terms of knowing who I am. And although I have my moments because I'm a human being and I need that part of me in order that people can relate to me, I have that little Joanna that says that I'm still insignificant. I have that.
Right.
I have it. But more often than not, I'm in this other space where it used to be the other way around.
Right.
Right. And it all started with me, really, with this idea of acceptance. When the being said to me, and I'm sure most of you guys have heard it, when the being said, "You are a powerful healer," and I had a hard time with that because the undeserving part was saying no, and that's why he said, "Look," in a very straightforward way, "Look, you're all healers. You either accept it or you deny it. Your choice." So one would say that I had no choice. Of course I did, but I kind of sort of had no choice. I just said, okay, I accept, even though I didn't believe it at first. I had to accept it because I trusted this being.
Right.
I trusted him more than I trusted myself. And I know that he was telling me the truth. On some deep level, I knew. And I knew on some level that it was true because it hit me so hard in the undeserving part. It's like, oh. So if I constantly keep projecting this notion of being a healer, I will never truly be in full embodiment of it. I'll try to always push it away somehow. And by me pushing it away, it's going to sound really funny, but me pushing me away is me not being myself.
Right.
And I do not want to not be myself anymore. I know what that's like. It's not a great place. Always trying to fit in and make sure everybody is happy. Yeah.
And so this is almost full circle, right back to the first question.
I was just going to say that. Yes, I was just going to say that. They have a brilliant way of doing this.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Exactly. That was that was powerful.
That was.
Yeah.
That was
powerful. Thank you, all of you guys who are listening. Keep the questions coming. There's going to be a bit of a surprise that will be mentioned in the next couple of weeks. Essentially, I'll spill the beans a little bit. It is so amazingly what's happening with me by me being myself and being in full embodiment of who I am, that it's getting to the point where my wait list for clients is getting so long that it's I have to find a way to reach more people, and I'm kind of tapped out with one-on-one sessions. I mean, there's only, eventually people are going to have to wait 7 months, and who wants that, right? So I will be presenting something that will help you guys to connect with me live on a regular basis. So
awesome.
That's something that nobody will know for now until some other time. So only if you are in a group, you will also hear something special in addition to that. So that's it.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for this, and this was great. So,
thank you guys.
Yeah, thanks everybody.